Hey, it's Don, it's Sunday, so we are going to do another What Sold on eBay video. This past week was just a monster week for us. We sold all kinds of stuff across the board. Honestly, last week was busier than any week I had in fourth quarter, so no idea why. It was just a huge monster week. I got nothing done besides, the obviously needed to be done things. But anyway, we're going to cut over the screen and we're going to show you a broad mix of things from this store that we share with you here. So here we are. This is the first item. I sold 5 of these same poultry stamps to the same person, all around $20, $22 a piece. I've just put a few in here so you can get the gist on what they are. It's just a small piece of paper. These do show up in stamp collectors' collections, estate sales especially. This one did come out of a stamp book, believe it or not. Just another one here, same basic principle. They're embossed, they're vintage, they're early. 1890s through 1910 is the era on these themselves. So again, this one person spent $110 and some odd cents from us. The majority of all of my orders this past week were multiple purchases from the same person. So I had, dozens of people that ordered more than just a couple items. They ordered multiple items across the board. The majority of my sales, honestly. Next item here is a vintage Christmas card. Has a little bit of an issue here, crease and such forth. It's a green coat Santa Claus. I took $50 on this one here. This is a dollar postcard. So another perfect example. Whoever had it up probably didn't even know that was Santa Claus because of the way he's dressed. If you don't know vintage at all, you can misidentify these kind of things all the time and then underprice them. That's a big, big plus for me that people just don't know all their items. So. Next one here, another one of the real picture postcards, real photo postcards, the actress cards that I've had. Now, Ross Verlag are the majority of what I see. This is just a Netherlands, a Dutch version of it. I did sell it for $18.38. Norma Shearer, she's very well known for her era. Silent actress all the way into the 30s, 40s, and later. Good item. Again, 50 cents or $1 or less on these types of items. Now, here's some promotional photos. I had some that were just so-so, and then others that were better quality, better paper. This one sold for $13.12. This is a different lot than some of the airplane photos that I have. Just another one from the same person. Bought 2 of these. And again, they're just vintage advertising promotional 8x10 images. Another one, label-wise. Now, I've had 3 or 4 of these. This one's probably creased the worst. There is a crease on some of them sometimes because the paper, the glossy strips on the back that reveal the actual glue on some of the earlier ones that are that way are folded down the middle. And I think that's why some of these seem to be creased like this, some of the ones that I find. I believe this one was unused as well. I took $10 on it, again, because of that crease down the middle. Person made an offer, and, I was fine with it. Again, I do mark up my items quite a bit over many other people. I can do that partially because just because you see 3 listings that ended and sold for, say, $5, that's over 90 days. That means there's only one up at any given time. So mine might be the only one up at this time, so there's no other option for them to get this piece. And most people, when they see something they want, they don't find another one up. They want to get it. They're not going to go digging through sold listings for the most part. It's the sellers that are going to be looking up comp searches. For the most part, most buyers don't look up comps. That's just what I find. I've done surveys. I've talked to people. I've asked, that's the gist of it from what I see. So, but it did go for $10. Next item here, Great Northern Railway. I sold a lot of labels this past week, over 40. So I was quite pleased with paper. Again, it was a monster week. I didn't get anything done. This one went for $15. The Ring, it's a vintage boxing magazine, 1968. I took $12.25 on it. Again, I do a ton of magazines. Magazines are kind of boring, but, I do well on them. You get a big stack of them. You only pay a couple bucks. You sell a couple for, top dollar when you first list them, and then the other ones are kind of staggered. You're not going to make a fortune on it. You can make a living on magazines if you have a huge assortment of them and a way to get them up, but it can be difficult and daunting. I still do a ton of magazines. I just stagger them listing. So like one day, one person will just list magazines, and I might not list magazines for another week, a month even sometimes. Just the way I do it. And most of these are paid for. So if I buy a big group of anything, I'm going to sell one or two of them right off the bat, the best ones, and get my money back out of them. So if they don't list right away, all I have is a little bit of space tied up in them and no money at this point. So that's the philosophy. Get your money back right away and then worry about the rest of the aspect of it. That's partially why I have a 90-day policy on a lot of things. And some things I may not list for a year even. So just keep that in mind. Like Christmas items might be a perfect example. They do sell all year round, but some Christmas items you will get top dollar for just before Christmas, the end of third quarter. Skating labels. I sold, I think, 6 of these this week in that label count that I showed you. $15 I believe I took on this one. Now this person bought, I think, like 8 of these over the last couple of months. He buys one every other week or so. This one did sell for $50 on this photo here. Average price on the photos is anywhere from, I think the lowest I've taken on some of the lesser quality photos, $15, but on average they're $20 to $57.50 is what I sell most of these photos for. If you know the photo industry, you can make a living at just selling vintage photos. You can look it up on eBay yourself. There's sellers that only sell photos and have 10, 20, 30,000 listings of just photos. Any category you think of, there's somebody who probably makes a living at doing just one of those little tiny niches. I can't get enough to live off of on one specific niche, so we've broadened out. There's no reason to be confined to one niche if you can't get that niche, obviously. So, but we do sell dozens and dozens of photos a week. Now this person here bought, I think, 16 or 17 of these Arm & Hammer bird cards. And I had 3 people buying bird cards this week. We sold over 60 of just these bird cards here. Now, Arm & Hammer inserted these in vintage boxes of baking soda. This is from the 1880s and 90s, this series. This is the first or second series. Now, just because you see an Arm & Hammer bird card, don't think it's going to be worth money. There's only certain series of these. The majority of what you're going to find from Arm & Hammer on these bird cards are going to be 1910s, 20s, 30s, and 40s, which don't carry a value. A whole set may only go for $15 for some of the newer ones. But these vintage series, the Victorian era ones, I've sold individual cards for $60 and $70 before. There's one series of these cards that has a coupon that's usually separated off the back. If the coupon is on there, there's a few of those cards that can go for $50, $60, $70 a piece. So know your stuff. This one's $10.88 I sold on this one. I have some more from another person I'll show you here from the same card line. Again, I sold over 60 of these just this past week. This label I took 50 on. This is a typical example of a Victorian era label. Nice quality. Now this is a printer sample. It came from a large assortment that I got from a closed down defunct printer. Now just because the printer wouldn't have actually printed these doesn't mean they wouldn't have vintage labels. When a print shop closes down, I always check on it because a lot of them collect or have on the wall vintage items. They show printing through the eras. Like restaurants that have vintage collectibles on the wall. A lot of printing houses that have been around for 50, 60, 70, 100 years do the same thing. So that's just thinking outside the box. Just like shoe repair stores, a lot of the time they'll have vintage shoe items on the walls. The one that I personally go to have shoes repaired or fixed or whatever the case may be, has stuff just scattered through the wall. So if he ever shuts down, I've already given him my name because I would love to buy some of the items on his wall to flip. So anyway, perfect example of that type of item. Here's a vintage pin. It was still on the card. I showed this in a haul, I do believe. I paid $1 for it. I sold it for $10 plus they paid for shipping. So no big deal. I don't mind. That's a huge profit margin. After fees and everything is said and done, I'm making like close to $8 profit on this. So Hank Williams. I sell a ton of Hank Williams. Anything Hank Williams usually will sell. I took 2062 as you can see. Anyway, let's move on from there. Postcard 2812. This person bought 2 postcards, spent $43.75 in those 2 postcards from me. This is just one of them. I'm not going to show you every single item each person bought. I would be here all day because we sold hundreds and hundreds of items last week. Again, it was a phenomenal week. Now this one here, I buy bulk of some items. I don't care if it's postcards or not. Sometimes when it's not a huge priced postcard and I don't expect to get a lot, I'll just list all of them all at once. I had 9 of these. I've sold 5. Average price on these is $4.75. That's what I'm getting out of each one that I sell. I spent $2 on the entire stack of 9 cards. Sometimes when you see cards in a big stack that are identical, you can fight the price on those, because who's going to buy that many cards? They're going to sit there and hold on to those cards forever to sell them all. Most people will just buy one. It's a linen, it's vintage, it's not a pricey card. On my benefit, I can use that and play with that to get the price of each card low. $2 for all 9 cards, boom, I'm out the door. I've already sold 5, $20 profit coming back off that. I made at least $15. I still have 4 more to go on this one single listing. I only pay the one listing fee still, 2 cents to list these if it's in my first 10,000 listings. Let's pop through some more here, because I've got a bunch. This one I showed in the haul, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe even on my live show, I think. I paid just a couple bucks for this one and another one. I took $235 on this one. It has some damage, some waviness, and it has a chip that's been worn out of the top up there on the left. So it's the only reason I took it. I might have been able to hold out and get $350 for it, but it has some issues. I would rather sell it cheaper than I think I could get for it and have the person happy than sell it higher and then have the issues affect, how happy the person would be with the item. I don't mind giving up a few bucks to make sure someone's happy. It's customer service. It helps my business. I don't worry about losing a few bucks for happiness factor, I would pay to have better feedback if there was an option for that. This one I took 100 on. You see me, I sell these pretty much every week. My profit margin on this lot was huge. When I first got these silks, and I bought a ton of them, I've got still maybe 75 of these I haven't even listed. And I've already quadrupled my money from this investment. We spent some money on these, though. I invested, I think it was $800 or $850, somewhere in that range on this. Maybe even closer to $1,000. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. We do buy big lots of stuff, so spending $1,000 on one lot is not anything odd for us. And in some weeks, I may spend $5,000 on purchases just in 1 week. Items that I can flip quicker. You don't see everything that I buy, and that's just these type of items. I buy wholesale items as well too. So wholesale purchases, you might spend $10,000 to get the deal, to get it, and you may be required to spend a huge amount of money on some items. But once you know the market and you've built up your stockpile of funding, you're all set, It takes money to make money. Just keep that in mind. But again, $100 on this one here. More bird cards. Again, I sold it to 3 or 4 people this week, bought bird cards. So over 60 individual cards. Average price, I think, is $10.88 on average for most of these. These are all $10.88. They went on sale, so I had people left and right buying them. Average price, though, on these cards, if you look them up on, comp sales, is $3 to say $6 or $7 at most, and people sell them in lots for even cheaper sometimes. So you just got to know what you're doing and have the rapport with people. These people that are buying these cards have been buying from me for years in many cases. Something like this I might list on Etsy even, because, again, there is a different crowd for it. Now, this was sold to Mississippi. We stayed maybe a mile from where this person actually bought this label from, which was kind of interesting. It was on the same road, even a mile down the road from where we stayed in December. So anyway, Mississippi belt sold for $13.12. It's just a whiskey bottle label. They're not a huge profit, but we do sell quite a few of them. So, at $8 a pop, profit after all said and done, net, what I'm taking home, I can't complain. There's nothing into it, so. Jerry's in. This is a token. I took 20 on it. I went back and forth with the person, talking about price, and he wanted to know some information on where I got the location and things along that line. So, I'm fine with the $20 price. I'm not sure what they're worth. I run into these. I hadn't bought one until recently, because usually they were $3 or $4 or $5, and I wasn't willing to go up that high. I may in the future buy one next time I see it for that price, but this was $1 is what I paid for it. So I took the shot on it. I may not get $20 out of the next one. The next one may only be worth $8 or $10. You never know. Or I may get 45 straight out. There's no rhyme or reason to some of this. It depends on who's on at that specific time. Cheap Thrills, this was up 4 minutes before it sold, straight out. I went back and looked, did I price it too low? Maybe, you know, I'm thinking, but there was people selling lots of these, and I've had these before. This is basically a college magazine, where basically Mad Magazine and such forth started, with similar issues to things like this. The colleges were creating these, like National Lampoon and things like that. And that's where these pretty much were founded. Average price on these is $4 or $5 an issue, so maybe this issue was worth a little more, maybe not. I'm not worried. I've got 50 cents or $1 into it. I made profit-wise like $17.50. When all is said and done, after everything is paid, they paid for shipping. Again, I charge for shipping for everything. So, vintage camera items, I took 20 for this tele-wide finder, and I don't even know what this goes to in all honesty. So, $20 is fine. I've got nothing into it. I've made thousands off of the vintage camera assortments that I bought at auction. Another vintage token. The wife listed some of these. If you follow Instagram, I showed some pictures of our bagged items, and this is just some of those items that sold immediately. I think we took $12.50 on this one here. Roller skating labels. I sold one on average every single day this past week. Average price was $17.80, $82, or somewhere in that range. I do figure out averages in categories sometimes because I've been following these type of labels for almost 2 years now that we've been selling them. So I kind of keep track of whether we're up or down in labels. I've got hundreds more that I can still list, but I don't want to list them until my averages are falling a little bit, because I try not to flood the market. You know, when you're the person who has the most of a certain item in a category, you want to keep the picking slim to some extent to be able to control the pricing in it a little bit. You know, it's just something people do. Industrial businesses do this. Retail establishments do this as well, too, across the board. You don't want to overorder, I guess, would be the thing. You don't want to flood the market. You don't want to have too much inventory sitting online in some items. Now, when it gets to, like, fourth quarter items, you know, I just flood the market with those, but something like this, there's only so many collectors out there. There's only so much funding that people are going to spend on these a week. So, you know, it's just part of the play you have to do with things like this. Now, these are poster stamp / luggage labels. This person bought 14 KLM labels, all KLM labels. So, obviously a collector. Kind of the reason they're called poster stamps by some people is because they look like a travel poster. Perfect example. There are posters that have this basically same artwork on them, not with the divided areas and the big geometric shapes, but overall the design itself. The person, I think, spent like $140 or so on all of them. I don't remember the price on individual ones. Obviously around $10 on most of them, but another one. I only am showing you the fancier ones too, the actual ones that look like posters. Another one, and another one. I sold 2 of those Far East ones too. One to somebody else this past week, believe it or not. So rather interesting. I sold the 2 highest ones that have been on eBay. Again, another one here. Another one here. Now this one here, I had a bunch of these. You can see I've got 2 on this listing. I usually list a couple at a time. When this ended, I listed some more. I'm actually out of these now. I've sold overall, I think, geez, almost 20 of these, I think, over time on these. And I paid $1 a piece. They were still sealed in the package. So this one I took 30, the last one I took 45. I don't mind if the price goes down. The longer you have something up, you know, and you're selling it, the less people are going to be interested in it. So the price is going to go down. I don't hold out for top dollar on everything. You know, it's a buyer's market to some extent. And I play and I roll with the punches, and I go with what's going on at the present time. So these are down, so no big deal. I've had them up for a year or two, and I've sold on average 1 or so a month, like 1.25 a month that I've had these up. So, you know, do I care that they've dropped down to 30? No, because I'm still making, you know, 27, 26, 27 bucks on this one here. The first one I sold, I made all of my money back on the very first one. So, you know, that's the game I play with this. Next one here is a McClellan token. It's a Civil War token. I spent probably more than I normally would on this token here. I spent 15 on it. Civil War, I was originally going to keep it. Look at comps on this one before you wonder anymore on this. Look up comps. This exact token average is about 25 or 30 bucks. I sold this one for $75. Look it up again. I price things higher than most people, and I do get more than most people. I listed this in the Civil War section, not the token section as well. Take in mind that the majority of people aren't going to search comp prices, and many people won't even search that same item up to see what other people are selling it. You know, that's why RA works. That's why you can FBA items. People don't check on the prices. That's, again, why this works. So I get the question, why would somebody pay more for items from you when they can get them from somebody else cheaper? Because they don't want to spend the time or they don't think about it. The majority of people do not price the items before they buy them. That's, again, why I can do what I do. Next one, another piece of jewelry. I took 10. I don't even remember how long this was up, but I don't spend more than $1 or $2 on anything. So again, profit-wise, I'm making about $6 or $7 profit. Not huge, but, you know, I've got nothing into it. This one, I think I took 45 on it. It's a Halloween postcard. I sell them all year round. I do not care what season it is. I put them up right away. Usually this is one of the items, if I buy a big lot of postcards, these will go up first over anything else. Again, because they'll sell quick. So now this one here, I think I showed it in a haul. This is actually handmade by a designer. They're not marked very well, so sometimes it's hard to distinguish the marks on these. I was up for maybe 2 hours, maybe. And they made an offer at 35. Maybe even it was 30, but I countered back at 45 and told them that was the lowest I would go. And 2 minutes later, they bought it. So this one was up for a little while. They're clip-ons, so I don't really worry so much on the clip-ons. I took 15 for it. The person was very happy with it. They have matching a matching necklace and a brooch for this too. So, you know, it's just something. These I paid 50 cents or $1 for at max. Buttons, I sell these all the time. I took $10 on this one. I paid maybe 2 cents. I bought a huge bag of buttons, and I'll just pull out the better ones. I'll buy buttons even if I know that the majority of the button bag won't sell. These can be bought at auction. They can be bought at garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores. You name it, I can find buttons there. Antique malls are great for finding buttons. Don't just go to an antique mall, though, and think you're going to make a ton of money from buying buttons, because most buttons aren't worth money. You just have to know the market. I've sold buttons for 20 years, or been into buttons, at least military-wise, and we run in and used to buy huge bulk lots of buttons from auction houses. They're not there around anymore. You can't do that at all anymore. 15, 20 years ago, I could buy, you know, 150 pounds, 200 pounds of bulk button lots, vintage, all vintage, from an auction house. The auction company's still there. They sell individual buttons now, not lots. They were called button pokes back in the day, but I've been into buttons, and I make a ton of money on buttons, believe it or not. Just these tiny little, tiny plastic ones. I show them quite often in videos, too. I don't show a lot of them because people just don't get it, and they don't think it's anything. Most people aren't interested. But tiny shirt buttons, the shank, this would just be on someone's coat. I have 5 or 6 of these, all from someone's coat. I'll even buy clothing and cut the buttons off and throw the clothing out, believe it or not. Next one here is a fraternal college class. It's a sorority, basically, on this one here. I have 3 of these. I sold one for 20. I paid $1 or something for a whole set of these. Now, these are some wedding photos. I bought a big bulk lot of photos for a couple images that were in there. I've already sold the images. This is just the leftovers from it. Wedding photo sell. This was up for a while. I should have done some close-ups on it, and I probably could have sold it better. Again, I have some areas I lack in, and it's just going back and trying to fix up old listings. When you've been on as long as us, you've got listings that have been up for a long time. I don't take them down because they will, so I did get $18.50. I've got nothing into this other than listing. At the most, maybe I've spent $3 on listing these, because these have been up for like 3 years. So I have people ask, is it worth keeping stuff up? You're wasting all that money. I have $3 into listing these. I have nothing anymore into the actual item cost. I sold them for $18.38, so at the bottom of the day, I still made 12 or so bucks on them. Is it worth keeping them up? Yes. 3 years is about the max on most items. I'll usually, at that point, I'll take them down. I'll either fix the listing, and if they don't sell at a certain length of time from there, I'll bulk them with something else and then relist them as a bigger lot. I'll just throw some other photos that didn't sell in it. If I've got a group of postcards that I can't sell, I'll bulk them in a lot and do them that way as well, too. I won't trash most any item that I have. I will just bulk it, bulk lot it. Sometimes I'll just take them off and maybe even put them up in a local live auction and have an antique auction sell them for me. I may not get as much. That's why I do, though, bulk them up on eBay. Now, this is a missionary, like a fundraising slip. It's from 1866. Some child was helping raise it to build this missionary packet Morning Star. There's a lot of these foreign missionary services back then, and I find a lot of documents from them. This was shoved in a Bible. So I always look and I always buy Bibles. Bibles are always a good seller for us, as long as they're vintage Bibles, old family Bibles, big Bibles. A good one to buy are Braille Bibles as well, too. I've had tons of Braille Bibles. I've got a vintage Bible down here that I just got, and it's a big family one from like 1870. Most of the vintage pocket ones go for like World War II or before. Bibles are a good source of revenue for you. Religious items in general I sell. You know, I was back in the day an altar boy, and I know something about the items and what they're called and the aspects of them and all. So I don't mind at all buying religious items, and that's one area that a lot of people will stray away from. Anything religious I can sell, and I can sell it very easily without any hassle whatsoever. The prices don't go down on most of those. You know, I sell rosaries all the time. You know, probably at least once or twice a month I'm selling a fairly decent rosary. Or more. Some months I sell a couple of weeks. So, and last one here is just a postcard, 2588, Inglewood, California. Again, California is hot. So, well, there you go. Hopefully that gave you some ideas and some thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.